Heavy and old, fast and slow, loud and quiet. Yet the question remains, how can such an asymmetrical tank be outfitted for the United States military? Hi, welcome back to Tanks, and in this episode we will be discussing the M1A1 Abrams. The M1 Abrams series of tanks was introduced in the 1970s in order to replace the aging M60 main battle tank, or MBT. Due to fears of Russian tanks being considerably stronger than the American tanks, the M1 Abrams program was a really good replacement and competitor to the T-72s and T-64s that the United States could potentially face. And they did. The M1 Abrams really shined in the Gulf War and in later wars such as the War on Terrorism, and is being used currently by multiple nations such as Australia. With a new tank comes new technology. The Abrams was outfitted with non-explosive reactive armor, blast doors, a different engine, and an extremely powerful gun. Another one of these features were the new computer systems and imaging sights that could be used by both the gunner and the commander. However, the earlier M1 Abrams had onset problems, which were corrected, and the M1A1 replaced the M1 Abrams as the new American powerhouse of tanks. So now that we've talked about the history, let's take a look inside of the tank. This tank is outfitted with, as I said, non-explosive reactive armor, and armor protecting the driver from gas tank fires, if such an occurrence were to happen. In the turret, N.E.R.A. composite elements are found all around the turret, with the exception being the back of the turret where the ammo is stored. N.E.R.A. is a composite which uses different types of metals and in its array of materials. As depicted here, this one plate protects the crew from ammo detonation, also referred to as the blast door. This plate was used heavily as it increases crew survivability by a significant amount. If a round or missile or rocket were to hit the rear of the turret and not penetrate this blast door, the crew would be safe for a certain amount of time, which allowed them to either escape or drive back to the motor pool to get the tank fixed. And as seen here, the seating configuration of the crew were much like the M60s, with the driver being in the forward center hole, the loader standing in the left side of the turret, the gunner being in front of the commander and behind his set of optics, and the commander sitting above everyone else in his cupola. Now, the gunner's optics was outfitted with night vision devices and thermal imaging systems. And although the commander did not have any thermal imaging systems, he was given a CTV later in the M1A2 variant. However, he could still see relatively what the gunner was looking at. Now that we've looked inside of the tank, let's talk about the guns. The M1A1 and other Abrams were outfitted with one 50 caliber Browning heavy machine gun, one M240B machine gun above the loader's hatch, and one M240B machine gun as a coaxial machine gun. However, the big dog, the M256 120mm smoothbore cannon, is the best gun for this tank. Using designs from the German Rheinmetall L44 cannon, it can fire a vast array of ammunition. Now, smoothbore allows the cannons to have a longer lifespan in comparison to rifled when firing higher pressure ammunition. And speaking of ammunition, the United States, in comparison to other NATO nations, uses depleted uranium long-round penetrators as for its sabos. Depleted uranium, in comparison to tungsten used by NATO nations, sharpens while penetrating metal, which is much more preferable than mushrooming effect of tungsten. As seen in the M829 and its variants, such as the M829A1, which was used by the M1 Abrams, it is a strong penetrator. Another key aspect of the M1 Abrams is the AGT 1500 gas turbine engine. This engine had the power to produce 1500 horsepower at a speed of roughly 60 miles per hour. However, most crew would not go anywhere above 40 to 45 miles per hour due to maintenance constraints. The use of this engine has sparked many debates on how it should be used or if it should be replaced. The biggest debate being of how loud the engine is. Some people might say that the engine is too quiet and perfect for tactical movement. Others say it is too loud. However, in this type of debate, the answer is both. As it uses loud or high frequency wavelengths and sound waves, the engine is extremely loud up close, yet very, very quiet at a longer distance. And as most tanks will be engaging in a long distance, it would be preferable if it was way more quiet than that of a diesel engine. However, these engines do require a lot of air filtration. Now that we've talked about some of the key aspects of the M1 Abrams, let us review. The M1 Abrams has been the American powerhouse for tanks since the 1970s and remains to be the American dream of tanks in the present day. And although the M1A1 is no longer in service, it has paved the path for the M1 Abrams as a whole. Thank you for watching this episode of Tanks.